Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. And welcome to another oddly specific recommendation. I don't even know if this one is too oddly specific, we'll see, but basically this one is a escort romance or sex worker or lady of the night, man of the night, whatever we want to call it. I've made one of these before. It was a couple years ago and I realized that none of my current favorite were on that list anymore. I think one or two of these were, but I'm going to be revisiting them just because sometimes when a video is really old, nobody's finding that one anymore. But I was inspired to make an updated one by Minx by Sophie Lark. That's where we're going to start with it. It reminded me of so many of the things that I love about romance with a sex worker who has made all of their sexual interactions about power or about money, and then runs up against someone who makes them feel brand new again, who makes them revisit intimacy in a way that they haven't been able to in years. And not because they're necessarily broken or degraded by their work, although I do stand by the fact that anyone who is selling sex, not that I degrade that profession, but I do believe that it changes your mind on sex, and I think that a lot of these books show that. And that's why when they gain a new connection with someone, when they find someone that it isn't just punching a time clock for, when it isn't just playing the game to get paid, why it can feel fresh and new again. And to me that just shows there is a cost to this job. And a lot of these romances show that, whether it is a cost of being considered shameful because of their work, or just a toll on their soul because it feels heavy to do it, or they've lost the joy of sex just for the joy of sex because they've been doing it as work. Just like anything that we do for fun that is now work can start to lose its sparkle. And I find it incredibly emotional and beautiful when they're able to find something fresh and new about it because of that. So we're going to start off with Minx. I don't have my copy of this yet. I can't wait to. But this book just came out in June from Sophie, and this is about a very high-class escort named Blake. And she is very sought after. She has very strict rules for what makes her so sought after. She has worked her way to the top of this job, and she's stayed there because not only she is very good at what she does, she's made herself very desirable, she's made herself the woman to have, but she also has traded in secrets and power, and so that is what sex is for her. And then she comes up against Ramses, who is a genius stock market billionaire boy and boy man, and he almost has golden retriever energy, but with some Slytherin in him as well. He's a very interesting mix. I would call him a Slitherdor or a Griffin Slither, I don't know, because he has these very gregarious, fun aspects to him, but he also is very conniving, and you don't get to the top of finance the way he did if you're not. And him and Blake come across each other at a event that they're both at, and he then starts looking into her and hears who she is, and he immediately wants her. Now, Blake did want to catch his attention, but she isn't quite prepared for the full force of his attention and just the anvil that is coming down on her in the form of Ramses. And these two begin this dance of back and forth where, sex is the power, but he brings something to it that she hasn't experienced before, and it literally shakes her. And the things that they explore together, and yes, that involves some kink, that includes some pet play involved, but the way that it's used and the way that they engage in it together, it was some of the most romantic, emotional stuff I've ever seen. And the connection that they find honestly scares both of them. And I love how they discuss it in this book. There's wonderful aftercare taken and discussion happening, and you can tell that this is written by an author who takes proper care of those things, right? It isn't an afterthought. It's the whole point. the care and the comfort that's involved in it is the whole point. So this book also has a beautiful scene of period care and period sex as well. There, yes, there's lots of kinky things, and you can find a whole list of those somewhere. But these two, it really is a beautiful love story between these two. But when you have two people who are used to playing power games, and now you're in a relationship where it started as a power game, how do you transition that love from a power game into a long-term relationship where is someone still always trying to win? Do they both lose, or can they both win? And yeah, I absolutely love this, and it's honestly, I can't think of another like escort romance that matches this one, but there are some really great ones out there. So let's go through some more of them. Let's do this in order so I don't get mixed up. One of my favorite escort romances prior to this actually has a male escort in it, and it is called Escorted by Claire Kent. This is an older cover of it. I received this as a gift from a friend. There's a different cover available now, but this one is about a heroine who is a writer, and she writes romance novels. She, I think, is almost 30. Maybe she's only like 25, I'm not sure, but she hires an escort that she's been referred to take her virginity. And so his name is Ander, and so yeah, she hires him, and they meet up, and they begin these liaisons that start as like weekly things, and she slowly is falling in love with him and realizing this is a very dangerous thing for her to be following for an escort. But what I love about this, because it's something that I praise Claire Kent for whenever I read her books, because she makes sex so real, including the awkward parts of it, like when things don't work quite right, or when things, the weird feelings you feel about your body and that you feel about it. And she really takes the veil away, and it is still, in my opinion, very sexy, because it has that genuine like excitement for things, but also the nervousness and the giddiness. And because we are in the head of this heroine and we don't know what the hero thinks, it puts you very much in the shoes of what's going on. And yeah, I love how this story unfolded, and it has, you know, all the things you kind of worry about when it's an escort romance. Like, at what point are you just a job to that person, and at what point are they starting to have genuine feelings for you? And there's a power dynamic involved because you are paying this person to be with you. Can you ever really like be together because of it? So highly recommend. Then of course we have to talk about this, but I wanted to talk about a different kind of sex work. I didn't want it only to be one kind. Eyes on Me by Sarah Kate. This is book 2 in her Salacious Players Club, and it is one that doesn't get as much attention as some of the others, because I think like the hero, he's not everybody's cup of tea. But this is actually a stepbrother romance as well, and our heroine is a cam girl. Our hero, he owns the Salacious Players Club along with his 3 other co-owners, and he is a voyeur. So he loves the club because he gets to watch anything that he wants, and he has a great time with it. And one of his pleasures for himself is to, you know, watch cam girls. And he comes across a cam girl that he discovers is his younger stepsister. And he's very shook by this. And the first time that he comes to what she's doing makes him feel extremely guilty. These two have had a very like antagonistic relationship for many years. And part of it is for the last few years he's been attracted to her, and he knows that that would be very like inappropriate for him to be. But yeah, and so then the way that this escalates gets very interesting. But you know, cam work is a type of sex work, so wanted to include that in this one. That's why this time this one is sex worker romances, even though I may still have to call it escort to get it listed. We'll see what I had to call it. Last time I made this video I called it escort romance, and it was okay, but we'll see. All right, then we have a historical to share. Actually, I have a few historicals for this for sure. This one I believe was on the previous video, but this author, Evangeline Collins, is believed that this is a pen name for a different author. I've never been able to find out who it is, No one's ever told me. If you happen to know, let me know. But this author only did 2 books, and they both are about different sex workers. This one is about a male escort, the heroine, her name is Lady Isabella, and she is in a loveless and abusive relationship. And she's left alone in the country for big swathes of time, and her cousin suggests that she get a companion to come and stay with her and see to her needs. And that is what she ends up doing. She ends up hiring Mr. Gideon Rosedale, and he's going to be with her for 2 weeks to indulge in harmless flirtation and more than that eventually. And this is like a heartbreaking story. Like this one, I did not know how this could have an HEA, because this is essentially, she is cheating on her husband. She takes a lover, I mean, at least for the short amount of time. And also, like, our hero has a lot on the line too. Like, there's obviously a reason why he is being this, and he has people who pull his strings. He is, you know, someone that he answers to. So there was so many strings involved in this one, but it's a book I've never forgotten. I read this book maybe 4 years ago now, and I've never forgotten it. It stands out. It lives rent-free, as we say. So yeah, this story is very, very powerful. And so yeah, there is her ladyship's companion, and then there's one called 7 Nights to Forever, which has a woman who actually has worked with the hero. Like, they both work for the same person, and her story is equally as heartbreaking and beautiful as well. All right, then we have let's do the other historicals first. So there is the Seducer series by S.M. LaViolette. All 3 books in this are about either current or former sex workers. So this one, Melissa, she actually owns a brothel at the beginning of this, and her health isn't doing too well. So the doctor suggests that she go to the country to stay for a while. So she goes with one of her companions to stay in this small town, where she meets a vicar who is younger than her and is a virgin and is a vicar. And they have this flirtation. He starts to fall for her, and Magnus has a vow of celibacy, but he starts to fall for Melissa. And when Melissa tries to run from him, and the feeling she has for him, because she thinks she's not good enough for him and doesn't want to ruin his path, he shows a spine of steel that I was not prepared for. Like, he is not letting this woman go. Just because he's never experienced certain things before, it doesn't make him weak by any means. So these books by S.M. LaViolette, a little bit darker, a little bit edgier than some historicals, but I really liked it. And so there is Melissa, who was the owner of this brothel, and then there is also Joss and the Countess, which has someone who used to work at the brothel now being like a butler, and then Hugo and the Maiden. And that one is a very like saucy one, because Hugo is a naughty boy. So I highly recommend the Seducer series if you like these kind of romances, because all 3 of them are. Then there is The Lotus Palace by Jeannie Lynn. I could not find my copy of it, and I'm very frustrated. This whole series, I believe, evolves around sex workers, but this first one is actually like a mystery. There's someone who has disappeared and is believed to be dead, and our hero in this story is kind of this like young, this is an like Asian-based series, and so I can't remember like what he's called, but he's a scholar, I think. And he's supposed to be in arranged marriage eventually. His family has something set up for him, but he starts to fall for this woman who, she isn't currently a sex worker, but she is like a handmaid to someone who is a courtesan, and she has had to sell her body before. And this young scholar starts to fall for her, and she can't imagine that he wants anything from her besides her body. And though he is very attracted to her and wants her, he does want her for more than just her body, but she doesn't know how there can ever be anything more with them. She just doesn't see how there could be. But he's determined to convince her otherwise, and I very much enjoy seeing how he does. And the mystery in this is very good too. We read this for my previous book club, the Rake Appreciation Society, and this was one that both Crystal and I really loved. And I want to read more books by Jeannie Lynn because, as I said, I believe more books in this series are about other people from the Lotus Palace too. All right, then we have a couple fantasy books to share. So there is Lady of Brooksgrave Manor, as well as the second book in the series. This whole series is going to be about people in sex work. So the first one is about, I believe her name is it Hazel in the first one? I can't remember. But she ends up going to a monster brothel and becoming a what do we call it there? Becoming one of the ladies there who has a harem of monsters who come to see her. This is pretty well known at this point. This is a reverse harem, but it's like historical, paranormal fantasy kind of. The last one in the series is actually supposed to come out the end of the month. Supposedly this one has been pushed quite a few times, but I believe we're good to go for the end of the month. I've pre-ordered it either way, so whenever it finally drops, it will be in my hands and I will get it. Then there is Games with the Orc, also by Catherine Moon, and this one involves a hero who he works for this monster like company that will provide fantasies for its clientele. This is actually the Renegade Romance cover of this one. So our heroine gets out of a relationship that was kind of dead end, it wasn't going anywhere, and she decides to use some of her savings to have a week-long sex fest where she lives out all of her fantasies. And so this orc named Kalar is a master of his work with his work at the Monster Smash agency. And so she gets paired with him and all these rules get set up, and then also all the fantasies and scenarios she wants to play out get planned out by him, and he plans this whole week. So there is plans for like a planned like kidnapping, there's primal play, there's also him like treating her like she's his slave for a day. Like they basically just act out all of these things, and then things get a little complicated when Kalar discovers that she is his fated mate, which would mean that his career is basically over, which could be interesting. So really love this. And then I also wanted to mention A Merry Little Meet Cute by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. There's another book like in this series going to be coming out that I'm really excited for, that will have other characters from this, but this involves a heroine who was a plus size like porn star and cam girl, and she gets hired to be in a kind of like a Hallmark Channel type movie, and she's supposed to keep her past a secret. But the hero who will be her hero in the movie, he's actually a fan of hers and has paid to be one of her like top tier like patrons before. So her secret is kind of out. And yeah, they need to try to hide their attraction from each other as well, because they really need this movie to work, both for her career and for his career. So there we go. So there you go. Those are my recommendations for escort and sex worker romances. Let me know some of your favorites. Again, make sure you check out the other video that I've done as well. That one has more recommendations on it. And if you would like to recommend a video topic for me to do, I have a form down below that you can fill out just real quick and ask for what you would like it to be, and I'll take it under advisement. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.